Hello and welcome to another episode of African Couch Potato, the mashup. I am your host, Gino. Last week, we were with a wardrobe and styling person, Kari Sikati, and today we are joined by an award-winning set designer who goes by the name Karabo Legoabe. Karabo, how are you?
I'm good, Gino. How are you?
I'm very good. Getting straight into set designing. What is the difference between a set designer and a production designer?
Okay, cool. So a set designer their focus will obviously just be the set, but a production designer is usually in charge of kind of the overall look and design of whatever visual components are within that project or that show. So for example, in theater, a production designer, the set designer, the costume designer, and the lighting designer will report to the production designer. The production designer will come up with the overall look and feel of the production, and then the set design and the costume design, the lighting designer will implement that to make sure that that look correlates. It's a privilege to have a production designer because, you have one person who makes sure that things don't clash. Like, I'll give you an example. If I'm designing a set and the whole set is red, there needs to be a conversation with the costume designer so that they don't put the actors in red costumes, for example, to be like, okay, you can use any color but red. So the production designer, so usually if there's no production designer, everyone has to speak to each other to make sure that the visual look makes sense. But when there's a production designer, it's part of their responsibility to make sure that they control kind of the visual outlook of what the project is going to look like.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like art direction. So on film, we have a lot of art directors, and what they do is exactly that.
Yeah.
Would there be an equivalent of an art director in theater, or is the production designer?
So the art director in theater is the set designer. So a set designer and the art director are on par. In film productions, you get a production designer. So especially if it's, let's say, a series or something that's kind of long term, then they'll bring a production designer in and the art director will report to the production designer. And sometimes the wardrobe person will also report to the production designer. It really depends on the structure of the production, but a production designer is more senior in film production and in theater production because the set designer or the art director would then report to the production designer. Yeah.
And now, as a set designer, how do you get briefed in? Do you have a client coming in? Let's say, for example, it's Janice Hanneman and she wants to do Jack and the Beanstalk. How do you receive those briefs, and are there certain requirements that must be included in a brief?
So usually how the process works is that the producer will send me a script and then I will kind of just go through the script. It also helps me ascertain how much work is required in the project, which also would affect how much I would charge for that production. Usually there isn't always a brief. It's usually kind of like I'll read a script and then I'll sit with the director after I've read the script, and then the director will brief me then to kind of tell me. So the director will usually have a treatment. They'll send me the treatment, and the treatment will also give me an idea of what kind of they're envisioning. And then so using the treatment and using the script, then I'll meet up with the director, and then the director will then explain to me that this is what I'm thinking, this is what I like, and then I'll be like, okay, this is what I was thinking, this is what I like, and then we try and see where we can meet each other halfway in that conversation. Some directors will send a formal brief, but I must say it's not very common. I usually work off treatments and a script, and then what I do after that is I create my own treatment for what the thing will look like based on my conversations with my director and conversations with the producer, because the director will be like, I want a Lamborghini and I want this and I want that, and then the producer will be like, we only have budget for a Toyota Corolla, just so you know what I mean. So then it'll be my job to kind of see how I can get there like halfway, you know what I mean? That, okay, we can't afford a Lamborghini, but we can try and get this, you know what I mean? And we can try and get a car like this, or maybe let's not shoot the car like all of it since we can't get a fancy car, and let's just shoot kind of close-ups, So it would be my job to then meet the producer and the director halfway.
Yeah. And then once you've built the set, what happens when things change during a take rehearsal or a dress rehearsal?
I usually go to the back and scream into a pillow. And then I'll go back onto set and change whatever needs to be changed. If there's one big lesson for being a production designer is like just not to take things personally. Things change. Sometimes the changes are necessary. You know what I mean? Where I'll do a setup and then the director of photography will come in and go, that white chair on the white wall is not working because of 1, 2, 3. And they'll show me on the monitor that, do you see what's happening here? The chair's disappearing or whatnot. Then I'll make that change. But like, we roll with the punches. Things come up on set every day. I try and make sure to have extra things in general. So like, I'll get a call sheet or a schedule and we'll say we're working on these things today. And then you get on to set or into the theater and they're like, actually, we're working on something else. So I'll try and kind of have extra things. So have all of the things for the next 3 days of shoot as opposed to for just one day, because, it allows me to be agile and flexible. But what happens is when things change, things have changed. So you know what I mean? Then we will adjust ourselves. If more things need to be needed, they'll be gotten. I'll usually negotiate with the director and be like, okay, I thought we were rehearsing these scenes today. Since we're not, I'm going to need an hour to quickly go and get 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just a constant negotiation. But like, things change all the time.
What's the worst situation you've been in? Where you lost your marbles completely?
Oh dear. Yeah. Last year, I worked on an opera. Last year I worked on 2 operas. So towards the end of the year, I designed the set for an opera, and we were working with a AV designer who then, in the middle of the production, was suddenly the visual director. It was a little bit of a mess in that production all around. And the design, like my original design, was changed so much. So it was also just a situation where I just felt like there was no respect for me as a set designer, because I'd make recommendations and be like, I think we need to do it like that. And those things would get ignored or they'd be changed without me being present. It was also one of those productions where they expected me to be there all the time in rehearsals. And I explained to them on various occasions that that's not possible. Tomorrow you want to rehearse this scene and you want to rehearse it with the props. I need today to go and like kind of collect those things. And essentially what happened was the design was changed so many times, nobody knew what the heck was going on. And it came to the day when we had to move into the theater, and this set was like a huge runway. It was like a runway that extended into the auditorium, and it hadn't been decided like what color that runway was going to be. And there I was, like, sitting in the theater. I'm moving in. I think I had a crew of like 8 or 10 people. Half the time they were sitting around because, do you know what I mean? When they were like, what color should we do this? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't flip out. I work with a business partner who's also a designer, who has a much better temperament than me and who's much more patient. So I walked away from that production. But I didn't, because it was done by my company. It wasn't an official, oh, I'm leaving. I just simply told, and also they were stressing me out. They were physically making me sick. So I stepped away from that production. I spoke to my business partner, obviously, and I was like, is this something that you feel you can handle? Because if you feel you can't handle it, we can both walk away from this graciously. And I felt we had grounds to, you know what I mean? Nobody could come back to us and say we are, because I'm also a stickler for emails. I keep things in writing all the time. So I felt like I had my evidence as to what was frustrating me.
Yes.
I simply walked away and I didn't really come back to that production. I supported my business partner. If she was like, she desperately needs this and that, I'd get it. But I walked away because I'm like doing self-work, and I really, really try and walk away from situations that make me lose my temper, because then that stays on you. And also, we work in a very small industry. The last thing anyone wants is that kind of reputation where someone's looking for a set designer and they go, yo, Karabo is a hothead. Do you know what I mean? Don't touch her. She's going to go crazy, So I walked away, and I'm really glad that I did, because it wasn't serving me and it was painful. And I think what frustrated me the most was that you called me as a designer because of my expertise. The reason why you need a creative team is because you don't specialize in these things, but you can't call me and tell me you want my expertise, and then when I give my expertise, completely ignore it. And I mean, the show was low-key a mess because of, do you know what I mean? Things not matching. Like, I remember looking at that set and being like, that's not what I designed.
Does it induce a lot of anxiety?
It does.
And how do you cope with that?
My therapist taught me a technique of taking a breath before saying anything. So when I can feel that I'm upset or whatnot, I'll usually walk away, like even if it's just for 10 minutes or whatnot, to kind of gain composure and to like sort myself out. But yeah, like sometimes I just will speak through someone. So if I feel like I'm not going to be able, and I'm one of those people where if I'm really, really, really angry, I end up crying. And it's because I feel like if I don't cry, I'm going to punch something. Do you know what I mean? So it's a good way for me to kind of release. And sometimes I'll need a moment to just go to the bathroom and like kind of release it and then come back and do it. But like, yeah, I just like kind of woosah. I meditate sometimes. I also give myself grace. You know what I mean? Like if I'm working with somebody and they're working in a certain way and it's really making me anxious, I try and breathe through it. You know what I mean? And I also give myself a goal of the day after the show opens. So I just remind myself that this is not the rest of your life. By next week, Monday, you'll be done with this. It'll be done. And I also remind myself about my invoice and that I'm doing this to pay bills, right? So I'm not going to get myself anxious and worked up to the point where now I'm going to have a heart attack or I'm going to get a stroke or I'm stressing so much for money, you know. Then I'll be like, on this job, we're making money. Like I won't invest myself too much into it. I won't get emotional about anything because I'm just like, invoice. It's just for my last invoice so that I can pay my bills. Yeah.
From the horrible to the highlights. When you won, one was the Independent Theatre Award, and then you also won the Naledi Awards, right? How do the categories work? And on what merit did you win it on?
So with the Naledi Theatre Awards, I produced a musical 2 years ago called Hlakanyana, and the musical basically won Best Production, which is like the biggest award for the ceremony. We received, I think, 14 nominations, which kind of broke the record for a single. Yes, for Hlakanyana. So we got 14 nominations for Hlakanyana.
Sure.
And we won Best Lead Actor, Best Script, Best Supporting Actress, Best Musical Composition, Best Ensemble, if I haven't mentioned it before. Quite a few things, you know what I mean? And as the night was progressing, I was like, hey, I think we have a chance here. You know what I mean? So that was amazing. And the Naledi Theatre Awards are the main theatre awards in our country. We do have like the Fleur de Cap Awards, but I feel like those ones, they're based in Cape Town, and usually the focus is kind of not the focus, but when I look at the nominees, I'm like, okay, most of these productions seem like they happened in Cape Town, whereas the Naledi Awards are national, and like the nominations and whatnot is national. And essentially what the Naledi judges do is they've got different panels and they go and watch shows. Literally, they just go every week or whatnot and they watch different types of shows. And then I think they meet at some point and then just kind of bring those together. I'm not sure about their scoring system or kind of how they get there, but what I do know is that those guys watch shows, man, the whole year, and then they come together and do it. The Independent Theatre Awards. So with the Naledi Awards, I've been nominated for Best Set Design, I think, for 4 or 5 years in a row. And I really wanted that award, you know. So and it's funny because on that night when we won Best Production, I was also competing with myself because I was nominated for Best Set Design for something I did at the Market Theatre, and Hlakanyana received a nomination for Best Set Design as well. I didn't design that set, but we have a program at work where we groom students to kind of design different elements of a show. And then the Independent Theatre Awards came about at the beginning of this month, and I had a nomination for Best Set Design for a set that I designed at the State Theatre. And those awards are new, so this was the first one, and the Set Design Award was the first award. So it was really special for me because it was the first award. It was the first award ceremony, and the first award went to me. And with the Naledis, it was also very special because they happened on my birthday. Ooh. So on my 36th birthday, I became an award-winning producer, which is really also what I do. That's my 9 to 5. Yeah, it was incredible. It's very nice to be acknowledged, especially by your peers, you know, because the quality of production we have in this country is amazing, you know. So for me to be nominated with people who do amazing work, I'm just like, okay, well, I must be doing something right. Yeah. It's such a nice thing to be like, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
You know.
Mail and Guardian, do they pick you up before or after the awards?
So Mail and Guardian happened way before. That was in 2021. And essentially it's public nominations.
Yeah.
So anyone can nominate you. And I'm not even sure who nominated me. I'm not sure what their process is, but I just remember,
Top 200.
Yeah, being told that you're in the top 200, being announced. That was the very first award I'd ever received in my career. And that was also incredible. Just, another nudge to be like, yo, you're doing good work.
Yeah.
You're doing the right things. Yeah.
So from being judged and found in high favor, you're now also a panelist for the South African Film and Television Awards.
Yes.
What is that criteria? And do you only focus on like art direction, wardrobe, makeup, or does it extend to other things?
Yeah, so I've been a judge for the SAFTAs. This will be the 7th year. I sit on the production design panel essentially. So that panel judges, as you mentioned, set, art direction, wardrobe, makeup, and now soon like special effects. And what we do essentially is there's no overall judging. We focus on those things. So each and every panel has professionals in that field. So the directing panel will have directors, the sound panel, and so forth. And I judge art direction, wardrobe. I'm a trained costume designer, and I do costume design sometimes. It's just I don't prefer it. I prefer to do set design. And then what we do is they'll send us a whack load of content. And I mean a whack load, like hours and hours of watching TV programs. So you go through all of those, and then they have like an electronic like thing where you submit all of your votes.
Yeah.
And then once those votes are submitted, they select the top, I think 10 or something like that from each panel. And then we all sit down as judges. So then all of the judges, we come together, we sit down, and then we start kind of judging, choosing the 3 nominations, and then voting like in writing. So there's usually an auditor in the room as well.
Yeah.
And then we will, I'll say that these are my top 3, and then everybody will say their top 3. Then we all have to agree on a top 3. And then afterwards we vote anonymously to put our votes down and give them to the auditor in the room to tally up the votes.
Yeah. Has there been any production that really stood out for you?
Yes, I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. There's a production designer who works in theatre and in TV. Her name is Tando Lobisi. She goes, I think her handle is Texture, who honestly, I think Tando's maybe my age or a year older than me, but she's by far my favorite production designer in the country. She's incredibly talented. She did a TV show for DSTV. Now the name escapes me. I can't remember what it was, but basically it was in the story, these people lived kind of in a squatter camp.
Yeah.
And just the sheer detail of each and every house was insane. Like, and also it wasn't poverty porn, which I kind of like loathe within our space, you know what I mean? Where I once worked with an American director who we were shooting something in Hillbrow in the Ponty, and I created the set and whatnot, and she was like, it's so clean, you know what I mean? And I was like, poor people are not dirty. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, it's cluttered because it's a small space and these people have a lot of things. I was like, go to any household, especially one with like a mom. There's no way. I was like, it's deliberately not dirty. It's not something that I missed or whatnot. I was like, just because people don't have money, it doesn't mean that they're dirty.
That they're not hygienic.
And, and we had a whole back and forth about that. And eventually she went with me because she was like, look, you come from South Africa and whatnot. And I was like, yes. But Tando, I can't remember the show.
It was a series.
It was a series.
Not
it
Deep
was
City.
On Deep City. That's it. Oh, so you saw the
and I'm a fan.
Oh, like her work on Deep City was insane. Like I was like, she designed that thing almost like a theater production. Like it was so like artistic and creative, and I just love her work. Shout out to her.
Going back to your younger days, National School of Arts. People go to NSA to become famous. Did you also want to become famous?
I did. I went to NSA. At first I used to play the violin. So I was doing music and drama. And then I focused on drama. And then I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be an actor. And I think I was a pretty good performer. And then I went to Wits. And then I realized how many people want to be an actor. Do you know what I mean? And then I realized this is going to be very, very, very competitive, you know? And I also got bored because what we were doing in NSA in grade 10, I was doing at Wits in first year. So there was also just, it wasn't stimulating. There was just this repetition. And then, like, in my first year, I realized that I don't actually want to be an actor. And also, actors, guys, like, there's a certain element of craziness in that. You know what I mean? Because, like, we're taught how to get into character so much, but nobody ever teaches people how to get out of character. So even in NSA, I feel like I was a child who was 100 people from every single character that I had played. You pick up an accent, and then there are certain things that you can't kind of lose. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden I'm saying and like and. Do you know what I mean? Like until. So yeah, I just.
Do you get scary, in relationships? Do you have like a bipolar side that comes out from having taken on too many characters?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I think I'm a Gemini, so I think
You already have a split.
I've already got. Do you know what I mean? But the older I get, the more aware I am of it. And what you're saying, that used to happen in earlier relationships where I would play an angry character and then I'd be angry. Do you know what I mean? For like 2 weeks,
just walk home angry.
to get into character, or my character's so angry, it's so hard to like clear it out. And then I'd get home and I'd be, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it is hard. It's very hard to shake off every single character that you play because you have to really become the character. And how else do you become something by not immersing yourself into it? And then nobody teaches us how to get out.
Just for kicks, did you walk around your partner in character mode knowing that they don't understand what's happening just to see their reaction?
Yeah, I did when I was young and unwell. It would confuse. There was a guy I was dating when I was in high school, and he would eventually he caught on, and then I'd be a certain way, and he'd be like, "Oh, who am I talking to today?" You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think as you grow as an actor, you learn for yourself how to do it. Actors will tell you that I'll go to the gym. You know what I mean? To kind of work that character off, or I'll go to the park, or I will, everybody has their different techniques on how they cope and get out of character. Yeah.
And what would you say your contribution is to the arts? Like if Desmond Dube from Clientele called you and said you've got a life-threatening disease, what is your legacy?
I've mentored quite a lot of young Black designers through the Market Theatre. Funny enough, the first one who I mentored at the Market Theatre was the one to give me my award at the Independent Theatre Award. So it was just like such a full circle moment, So I think there are a lot of people who have worked under me, who I have trained, who are doing well. This designer I'm talking about is literally in the USA right now. She's designing costumes for Disney, So I think I've had a positive impact in most of them Black females in their lives, in their careers, just to kind of give them a push up. I also run an arts academy at UJ, and there are a lot of students who go through that arts academy who go out and work into the industry. So I'm also always proud when I switch on the TV and I see someone and I'm like, oh, wow, we trained this person in drama. So I think my legacy would definitely be my impact on young artists and people who are trying to break into the industry, people who are trying to work in the industry.
And what's still to be done?
I'm trying to start my career as a voiceover artist. I really, really want to get into that. And I think I still have a lot of amazing shows to produce.
Yeah.
I am designing a video mapping project now. That is so challenging. I'm looking forward to kind of technology and AI and what it's going to bring into our space, to see how that's going to enhance me as a producer and as a designer.
Yeah.
Have
you tried Intertalent for the voiceover stuff?
No. Is that like an
agency?
It's an
agency, yeah. Okay. Intertalent.co.za. They basically, it's like voice book. So they'll load your stuff up, and then when we as producers are looking for a certain voice for like a promo, radio ad, etc., we go to their database. We'll say 30 to 40-year-old Black female Tswana sounding, then you'll come up.
Okay.
And then we book you through them. Okay. So it's Intertalent, and there's another one called ONS. Talent management.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and you just give them a phone call and they'll run you through how to set up your profile.
Okay. Yeah, I work with ONS quite a bit
Yeah.
when we're casting for production, so maybe I should go to them because then they'll recognize my name there.
Yeah, but tell them you are now the artist,
Yes.
not the one
Yes.
booking. Anything you
Thank
want to
you
say
for
before you
that.
wrap up?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to this. It's very validating, you know, to do these things because it just makes you feel like, okay, people care what I think. People care about what I do, and I really, really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to this year. Like, this is, in the past year, I've become a multiple award-winning artist, whereas a year from now, I didn't have it. I was only a Male and Guardian Young Artist. So I'm really excited to see what kind of doors that's going to open, and I'm looking forward to 2024.
And how do people get a hold of you?
I am on Instagram. I am at The Artist KL, but I'm Karabo Legoabe on Facebook. I'm also the operations manager and producer of UJ Arts and Culture, so you can also connect with me via the University of Johannesburg.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of African Couch Potato, the mashup. Next week, we will be chatting about local productions that you can watch this year. For now, goodbye and keep binging.